Grand Rising's family, the ancestors and I have put together a 13-song album called My Ancestors' Hero. It'll be releasing March 1st, streaming on all platforms. Today, I'm gonna read you some quotes and direct thoughts from a great historian of ours who is now an ancestor, Dr. John Henrik Clarke. We lost our nationhood in slavery. Why don't we want to start thinking as a nation again? Well, he believes we don't want to do that because that comes with responsibility. That means us as brothers would have to hold each other accountable for our participation in building this nation again. Quote, "We should have never asked for integration. We dismantled Black institutions and buses to be a part of their institutions and ride their buses." And Black institutions, we're talking about like, taxis, hotels, grocery stores, major league, the Negro leagues. Think about all the managers, all the coaches, all the players, all the fans, all that revenue given now to the MLB. The bad thing about the civil rights movement was we were trying to be like white people during the time. But the fact of the matter is, we had a better moral system and relationship with other peoples of the world as Africans, as far as history goes. The respect you would get as a African American in these various countries in relation to the respect that we got as African people in these various countries. These are quotes, thoughts by Dr. John Henrik Clarke. When you find the time, get you a notepad, a pen, write down these thoughts again so we can have better discussions about what we need to be doing. All these brothers and sisters that I talk about are all about action. They're about laying blueprints for us. One generation can only do so much. They went through and laid out what needs to be done. Our generation needs to take action. Quote, "We built things 3,000 years ago with mathematical precision that still stand today." He's referring to the pyramids and the temples along the Nile. When you get a chance, go look that shit up. It's in Africa, from what was Kemet down to Nubia Kush. Don't ever tell your children that they struggle with math. Simply remind them we invented math. Another great scholar, Dr. Charles Finch III, go look him up. He actually, in one of his videos, has slides of the first mathematical problems and translates them to what they are. We're talking about multiplication, division, geometry, trigonometry. You had to have these things to build these structures, engineering. Back to John Henrik Clarke. The color from the temples of 3,000 years ago are still there today. Go watch a video with Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen. We'll be talking about him this month, definitely. Great ancestor. He walks through with an African-American reporter and explains everything on the temples, and he shows where there's still paint that looks beautiful. This is 3,000 years ago. Dr. John Henrik Clarke says you paint a house today, you need to paint it again in 10 years. We were excellent even when it comes to paint. We are extraordinary people when not focusing on what other groups of people want us to focus on. Yes. Yes. Quote, 850 BC, Egypt had already had 10,000 years of its walk in the sun. 850 BC, Egypt already had 10,000 years of its walk in the sun. I have been studying Egyptian spirituality, which is Kemetic spirituality, Nubian spirituality. They were neighboring kingdoms. Nubia, Kush, that was in the Sudan, Ethiopia region. These were societies that were intact for 10,000 years before a European ever wrote a book. Homer, 850 BC, Egypt had 10,000 years. And we're not talking about teepees, clay huts, mud huts. We're talking about what I just referred to with videos with Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen. We're talking about massive structures. We have to reconstruct in our minds what the ancient world looked like. Think about the marketplaces, the spiritual systems that we had in place. Dr. John Henrik Clarke states, don't count any dynasty after the 25th dynasty. This is the last time the Africans from the south, Kush, Nubia, today Sudan, would show the Mediterranean nations how to rule. So when you're looking back and you want to know what our ancestors did, what they believed, things of that nature, Dr. John Henrik Clarke states, no need to look after the 25th dynasty. By then, it was ruled by other peoples, all the way up till today. Again, when you find time, go watch every video you can. I'm doing this because it's amazing to me when you hold up side by side the people that I'm naming this month compared to us fighting on YouTube. The numbers make sense to why we act the way we act today. 10 million views. Us fighting in Popeyes. While over here, a blueprint for Black Power, 33,000 views. I believe if those numbers were swapped, 33,000 views on a fight in Popeyes, millions of views on a blueprint for Black Power, I think you would see the Black community change. Dr. Clarke states, especially with this statement, anytime you choose the lesser of the two evils, you have compromised with evil. If you are against slave masters, be against all slave masters. This quote is from somebody that studied all the happenings of history since we have interacted with other peoples. Where this pick the lesser of the two evils come from, I'm not sure, but that statement is correct. Anytime you choose the lesser of the two evils, you have compromised with evil. This statement right here, also true. But think about it with me, please. Religion is male chauvinist murder cults. Religion is male chauvinist murder cults. This, ladies and gentlemen, is not religion. This is spirituality. Where does he get the male chauvinist part of religion from? In the three major religions that dominate the world today, the man in these three religions are above the woman. Do you remember when I stated Egypt already had its 10,000 years in the sun by 850 BC? There was no three religions during this time. There was one, and people came from all over the world to receive spirituality. We did not believe the male was better than the female. We believed wholeheartedly in balance. There are things that I can do that a woman cannot do. Equally, there are things that a woman can do that I cannot do. There are things that I do better than women. Equally, there are things that women can do better than me. So we have different roles, different responsibilities. Usually the queen, the woman, had immense power in political matters because they handled politics better. And we knew that, and we sat beside her, we listened to her. She made decisions. I believe as a society, replacing women, putting them in their rightful place, I think that would help society. I believe we would respect and understand their power, and it will help us as men become more powerful. The murder cults. Religion is male chauvinist murder cults. Of course, we know all the wars that were waged in the name of God. Brother Anthony T. Browder says, in the name of God, more people have died than have been saved. Real number facts. Christianity did not take over the world because they spread the word of God. And everyone said, yeah, that sounds better. No. Our spirituality was outlawed. Our priests and priestesses were all killed to make sure that the knowledge would not go any further. This goes very deep. I don't have that much time. Before the invent of civil law, what we produced is not what you should do. We produced taboo, what you should not do. Then it makes the path more clear for what you should do. Brothers and sisters, Dr. John Henrik Clarke believed that Pan-Africanism is the only key to liberation for melanated people, people with African ancestry. The RBG, red, black, and green flag, that's what that represents. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Unity with all peoples of African ancestry, even continental Africans. You say, well, how did we fall from greatness? I believe, Dr. John Henrik Clarke believes, many other scholars that I'll be talking about this month believe it's because there was no Pan-African idea constructed and practiced yet. There were great kingdoms, nations all over Africa, but they were all separate. So picture a movie. My nation's over here. Their nation is over there, but we're African people. This nation gets attacked by the Romans. That's their nation. Our nation is good. Not thinking that when they take over that, they'll be neighboring us. They'll take over this. My brother and sister in Cuba, what Pan-Africanism does, it allows me to understand that that statement is correct. They speak a different language. But if my family line got off the boat at Cuba, I would be living right next to my brother and sister down there. Same skin color, speaking a different language. There are many red, black, and green chapters all over the world with like-minded people that believe we need to be united. That's the message for today. Dr. John Henrik Clarke. Go look him up. Great ancestor. My Ancestors Hero, Volume 1, coming out March 1st. Family.